Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today we're talking about how to homebrew amazing D&D adventures for your party. Listen, there's a lot that I could say about this, but I'm gonna make this video a little bit differently today. I'm gonna pack all of my most important to-do list items in this topic into a video that is less than 16 minutes, giving you everything you need to know in a condensed manner to run an amazing homebrew adventure for your party from beginning to end. This will tell you everything you need to know. And it's gonna even give you some more in-depth pro tips of mine personally that I use to make each one of these steps better. You're not gonna wanna miss this. Let's dive right in, make it happen. The first thing we have to cover is what homebrewing means and why we're doing it. Listen, there are all kinds of published adventures out there with all kinds of awesome source material, but at some point as a GM, you're probably going to want to engage your amazing creativity in homebrew and adventure, which is awesome. Personally, I'm a huge fan of homebrewed adventures. I love to play them. I love to run them. I especially love to create them. And so if you want to homebrew something, here's what you need to understand. First of all, this is called you homebrewing. This is your creation. You should trust yourself to homebrew something awesome. Go with your gut. Stick with your instincts. Don't get too thrown off course by thinking, well, that's not like a popular trope in the type of game I want to run. That doesn't matter. Take the tropes and throw them out. What you should do is run the session that is true to you as a GM. And you know what? If your players love your GM style, they're going to love your homebrew creations probably way more than anything you've ever run. So trust yourself. That's really actually the first step, is trust yourself to homebrew something awesome. The next step is to conceptualize your adventure. What type of adventure do you want to run? There are so many different types. Do you want to run a rescue mission, a heist, an exploration, saving the village from monsters, a mystery, whatever type of adventure you want to run? This is going to give you the list of things you kind of need for it. But you know what? Hot take. There's actually a pretty consistent list for all types of adventures anyway. It's just how you formulate the pieces and which ones you put the emphasis on that makes them more setting specific. For example, in a mystery, you're going to put a lot more emphasis on exploration and clues. In a combat rescue mission, you're going to put a lot more emphasis on sneaking around and having combat. In a heist, you're going to have a lot more time devoted to things like investigation, sneaking, deceiving others, so maybe some social interactions to get your way into sensitive places. In other words, you're going to have a list of elements you're going to want for your session, and then you're going to choose to fixate on the ones that matter the most, depending on the setting that you're trying to run. So once you conceptualize this, you'll want to come up with your tone and theme. The tone and theme is really the style. Is it dark and gritty? Is it lighthearted? Is it high fantasy? Is it cyberpunk, right? This comes into tone and theme, but you already know what you want to run. This is just something that you want to write down on your homebrew list thing. Setting is very similar. Where is this going to take place? Is it going to be in a dark forest? Is it going to be in a cave? Is it going to be in a large city? You're going to want to come up with your setting, and you're going to want to come up with some expanded storyline for your setting and possibly a map. This does not have to be crazy complicated. Just do the best you can. Give yourself a couple hours and just flesh out your setting. You can do this on a sheet of paper with markers. You can write it down and have some simple drawings. You could even find some stuff online to help you. With that being said, the most important thing here is to let your creativity fly and to focus on the things that actually matter while you're coming up with your setting. And boom, once you have come up with your adventure type and the tone and theme and setting, you will be ready to roll, moving on to the next important step. And that is the big bad. What is the main antagonist to your adventure? Is it going to be an ancient red dragon? Is it going to be an evil wizard? Is it going to be an evil corporation? Is it going to be an army of trolls who are stomping out villages? You get to decide this, and I'm going to tell you what, once again, trust your creativity. You probably have an idea for a villain, some kind of big bad. Guess what? Take that, write it down. Now spend a little bit of time putting a little more thought into it. Here's what I've learned about generating big bads, creating big bads. Your first idea is always awesome. However, you're going to go 2 levels deeper as you create your big bad if you give it a little more time. So write it down. Go take a walk and go about your life and think about your big bad and think about the history and think about what makes them bad. And you're going to get some inspiration for how to make them a little deeper, a little more believable, a little more immersive. Write down these new things. Now go do it again. And then you're going to come up with the deepest level of stuff. Write that down 3 layers deep on your big bads to make them really immersive and very deep. This is so much better than a surface level troll who's just like swing clubs, smash skulls. This is more like an evil wizard who has a dark history where he was studying ancient lore. He came across lost forbidden knowledge. And he also had a childhood that was dark, and he had this nanny who beat him, or whatever it is, right? Whatever the case is, getting deeper with your big bad is so important. You're also going to need a stat block. This big bad should be very challenging for your whole party, but they should be able to defeat him if they work together as a team. But there should be some real danger. He should actually pose a threat, maybe take one or two of them out potentially if they make the wrong moves. And then maybe a little bit of artwork to kind of show them. Or you can theater of the mind that. That's actually okay too. But anyway, coming up with your big bad is the next step. Once you get done with that, boom, done, moving on. It's time to incorporate discovery and exploration. And here's the thing. Every single D&D adventure is made better with a little investigation, a little incorporating discovery and exploration. You want the players to be able to discover things and learn things. And here's the kicker. You want them to discover and learn important things. You want them to feel like they're really contributing and they're a big part of the adventure, and that they're uncovering stuff that needs to be uncovered, but nobody else was capable or willing to do it. So here they are doing it. This means coming up with some clues. This means drafting up some interesting locations. You might want to draw some maps for this. Draw a map for a dungeon. Make a map for a haunted manor. Maybe you need to sketch out the dungeon or the fort, the cave system they're exploring. Maybe they're exploring the floor of a valley, a dark valley cavern in a dark forest. Whatever it is, come up with a cool setting for the discovery and exploration, and then plant some clues, some interesting information. Maybe this leads to the big bad. Maybe this leads to what the corporation is doing. Maybe this leads to what the trolls' end game plan is. But the point here is that you want the players to go from point A, not really understanding what's going on, to point B, learning something that makes them think, aha, this is why this is happening. And that is such a cool thing for players to experience. So plant some clues, have a story going, let them discover it, and also find hidden elements and have them find some cool stuff while they're doing that. Maybe some footprints, a broken gate, a spell book left behind by some wizard who was shocked to death by the big guy, and the big guy didn't even care to pick up the spell book, and it's a little clue into what's going on. So all of this kind of stuff is awesome. Next, you're going to need some interesting NPCs. Player characters love to interact with NPCs, friendly and unfriendly alike. So make some interesting ones. Don't just create random boy with short hair. Create boy, slightly pudgy, short sandy blonde hair. Looks like he cut it himself. He only has one shoe on, and he talks with a lisp. And his name is Timmy. Timmy, what are you doing? I was hoping to go fishing. You're hoping to do what? I was hoping to go fishing. Do you have a fishing pole I could borrow? Where'd your fishing pole go? Oh no, some big thrall took it. Right? Some big what? A thrall. A thrall. A thrall? Oh, you mean a troll? Where'd you see the troll? There's a bunch of them up on the cliff. Right? So it's like, something interesting. Make your NPCs really stand out. And hot tip, get your players to emotionally connect with them. Try to create empathetic NPCs that will actually get your players to be like, I want to role play with this person. Like, I want to learn more. I want to get them to talk to me more. If you can do this, you've won on the NPC front. All right, moving on. Always put a touch of mystery into your homebrew games. This is the next thing. Players love mystery. Players love to discover and learn things they haven't discovered yet. This is partly going to be covered in the exploration and discovery part of it, but make sure that you have a little bit of a mystery. Make sure that there's things going on that seem strange, that there's no explanation for. The players have to learn why these things are happening. When they do, when they find the clue, or they find the old letter, or they find the book that's explaining the plan, or when they question the right person who gives them that little bit of clue information, then there's going to be a revelation. They're going to be like, I see. That's a magic moment. You want to create that in your games. And that's what mystery is all about. By the way, do you struggle to come up with plot arcs on the fly? If so, I have the perfect tool for you. It is called My Ultimate Plot Randomizer. It is a free ebook. When you join my email list, you can download this for free. You'll get the link in your first email. It contains 4 D100 tables that will let you roll random plot arcs whenever you need them. Roll the hook, the conflict, and the conclusion, and even add wild and wacky stuff all right there. Download this, print it out, add it to your tool collection, and you will never go without another plot arc again. I give this away for free to help you create awesome plot arcs just like I do. I use this in almost every single session, and you are not going to want to miss out on this, so make sure you grab this. All right, moving on. Next, we need an epic battle encounter. At some point, the players are going to face off against someone. If this is a shorter adventure, probably the big bad or the big bad's henchman. Here's the thing about combat. You want it to be very challenging, but you don't want the players to get overwhelmed and taken out without feeling like that a chance. You want it to be pretty evenly matched so that when the players work together and they use all their resources, they're probably going to win. This is called an adequately matched combat. With that being said, it's really important that you don't just roll dice, shoot arrows, and swing swords. It's very important that you add a little character to it by role-playing the enemies. So maybe at one point the archer shoots and then misses the big bad, and then the big bad looks at the archer and says, I see you. You are afraid. Your fear makes you a less effective archer. Like he's goading him. You want this to be an interesting combat. And the more there are personal stakes in it, and then there's a little banter, the better it is. Another thing is to really make sure that you try to keep it from being just a long-winded slog where just people are rolling a bunch of dice and there's a whole bunch of other people sitting around while one person's taking their turn. This is a little difficult to achieve, but you can help to minimize the potential for this by designing your combats in such a way that they can be relatively naturally streamlined. You know exactly what your henchmen are going to do. You know exactly what your big bad's tactics are. And then the players, they can do their things and you can be in the know about the things that they can do so that you can really help to arbitrate them quickly. And this can help it to really move along. And sometimes you can even let two players take a turn at the same time. And this can be especially useful if one player tends to like read about a thing a lot before they use it or something and everyone else is kind of waiting, kind of the 2-for-1, let two players take their actions at a time. But anyway, but the point is design a combat that's well balanced, but that's also fun with some personal stakes in it. And then let it play out, let the players do their thing and then talk some smack and boom, you've got an epic combat. Next, you want to reward the party with awesome loot after the combat is done. This is a post-combat step that's very important. Players love to get loot. D&D and all TTRPGs are really, there's a lot. Loot is a big part of it. Loot has a lot to do with it. Players love to get cool stuff so they can put it on or swing it or use it in their next encounter to get an edge in combat, or they want to sell it and then buy stuff they want. Maybe they want to buy a ship or hire some minions or buy themselves a nice little cottage for when they retire. Maybe they want to buy a horse. But the point is that they need loot and treasure to do this. And so the big bad should always have some treasure laying around. It's highly valuable, as big bads usually do. Hey, real quick, are you tired of rolling the same old dungeon loot using these same old methods time after time, game after game? Well, I have a solution for you. This is how I roll all of my dungeon loot now. It's a book I created called The Ultimate Dungeon Loot Randomizer. This book contains 10 massive D100 tables full of awesome dungeon loot. Roll on a table for mundane items, slightly magical dungeon items, mundane weapons and armor, magical weapons and armor, individual pieces of treasure, magic scrolls, potions and elixirs, cursed items, forgotten wonders and otherworldly relics, and even full chests of treasure and loot. This book is now available on my Blurb bookstore in 3 different versions. There's a hardcover option, a softcover option that's more affordable, and a super affordable digital ebook option. It's even system agnostic, meaning you can use it with any fantasy TTRPG system, and you can just adapt it to the rule set you're using. Link is in the description. Don't miss out. Grab it today. But yeah, you're going to want to generate some loot. Whether you're going to use the DMG to roll it up, or you're going to come up with it off the cuff, or you're going to use some of the D&D magic items, whatever it is, just make sure there's some awesome loot at the end of your adventure to reward your players so that they can stock up for the next one. And one more final tip, you're going to want to put a cliffhanger and some emotional stuff at the end of your adventure. Listen, just because the group has completed one adventure doesn't mean there isn't always going to be a second one getting set up. Maybe you're going to have a cliffhanger. Maybe you're going to have the adventure ending turn into a clue in a larger campaign. Maybe this big bad was actually a lieutenant for a bigger bad who's now watching the party through a crystal ball and saying, I'm going to get them for this, right? Maybe there's also a moment of sadness because of a fallen comrade who fell during the battle. Or maybe there's a moment of joy because the cleric's able to rise your fallen compatriot, and then there's a celebration. Maybe an NPC confesses their love for one of the characters and throws their arms around them in a great big loving embrace. Maybe one of the NPCs starts to cry and says, I just can't thank you enough. You saved my family, or whatever it is, right? It's like, but there should be maybe cliffhanger, maybe the realization that this is only a stepping stone in a greater adventure, and emotional follow-through from NPCs, and an overall general emotional moment about the ending of the adventure. Because let's face it, every adventure, even in the end, is going to be kind of emotional. And guess what? Emotion, cliffhangers, and further adventures that get the players interested. These are the things, the ingredients that are going to keep your players wanting to game with you at your table, and we'll keep bringing them back week after week and game after game so that your games will be so successful and people will love to play with you. And boom, that is what you need to homebrew a D&D adventure and make it amazing and epic. With that being said, that is going to conclude this video. Thank you so much for coming by for another episode of GM Philosophy in the Morning. I will admit this took a little longer than I thought. 10 minutes, as it turns out, wasn't quite enough time, but hey, we squished it in there as good as we could. And thank you so much for watching one of my videos. I'm here every day creating videos about the best game in the world, D&D. So I will see you awesome people on the next one.